Hello and welcome to the first episode of a football podcast called The Dugout. I'm your host, Alexander Cruickshanks, and here with me today is my co-host, Ethan Barlow. Hi, Ethan. And we've got another
Oh,
co-host, Laurie Finlayson, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight for the first episode. But it's not really a real first episode. We just thought with the Old Firm Scottish Cup final just tomorrow, we'd do a quick wee preview of the game. Me being a Rangers fan and Ethan being a Celtic fan, giving our perspectives on the match. So, Ethan, how are you?
yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Nervous about tomorrow. I
Um, no, I'm not confident, but I'm sure when the game starts, the nerves will kick in.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way it always goes. You're excited for it, and then you spend the 90 minutes hating it. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think we should just start um, with going into how we think the teams will line up against each other tomorrow, and then we'll go into how we think the game will play out and what the key battles are going to be. Um, do you want to get? Do you want to tell me what you think? How you think Celtic will set up?
I think the Celtic team picks itself really. I think Joe Hart, his last career game, it looks like club last match as a footballer, it looks like Joe Hart will of course be in goals, and then we've got Greg Taylor, Calvin Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales, and Alistair Johnson. Defence picks itself. I think the midfield again picks itself. McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly, probably playing his last game for Celtic before he's off to the Euros, and then maybe away for big money. Celtic will hope. Um, and then the front three, I think Maeda has done enough since coming back from his injury to stay in. Forrest made a great impact recently. I think he deserves to keep his spot. And then possibly the only contentious one is a striker. He does showed good moments, but I think it'll be Kyogo, but it could be Adam Ida. But I think he'll go with Kyogo up top.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that lineup there. James Forrest's resurgence is the main sort of talking point, and it leads into another part of big Scottish football. The Euros squad, he's in the provisional squad. He's made his way back in. Steve Clark lavishing praise on him in the recent press conference. So I think he'll definitely be a big player. And your point about the striker, um, I think either one of them could start, but I think it'll be Kyogo as well because I think he does his best work coming on late in the game and just giving something different. When so I always go back to this when we talk about it ourselves. It was the 3-3 game. We brought it. We were piling the pressure on, you know, and we looked like we were going to go on and win that game. Adamida comes on from Kyogo because we were putting pressure. Celtic were playing long ball. Kyogo wasn't winning anything, and then Ida comes on and gives the centre halves a hell of a time and ends up scoring. So I think he could be definitely a big player for tomorrow. But I think he is really effective coming off the bench personally.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. I agree with that. He's almost a completely different striker to Kyogo, where as you said, bring him off the bench when it's late in the game and maybe we're backs to the wall if we're ahead or whatever. If Rangers are putting pressure on Celtic, then he's great hold up play, and yeah, that's his best work coming off the bench. Probably, although he did show good signs at Rugby Park when he started, but I still think he'll get the nod.
yeah. Now on to the Rangers team. Where do we start? We've been plagued all season by injuries, uh, and it's happening again. And see, to be honest here, I've looked at the squad, looked at the injuries. I might not even be 100% correct on who's available, and it's just so up in the
Yeah,
air. Everyone seems to have something. Claremont did mention we might need to take risks with injured players because it is the last game and it's for so much. But this is how I think we will line up tomorrow because of the injuries. Obviously, Jack Butland was a contender for Player of the Season, a cracking goalkeeper. When he came in, he had big shoes to fill, Al McGregor, and I think he's stepped up to that this season. Definitely, I just think it's the defence most of the time that's let him down. Uh, Obviously, it'll be Tavernier at right back. This is a big game for Tavernier, and he needs whoever's on that right hand side needs to support him with Maeda because Maeda does such a good job of nullifying him. I think it will be Leon King and Ben Davies, unfortunately, because of the centre half injuries. Goldson's out for the season. Balogun's injured, and I think Suter's out as well. Uh, I would have had Redvan, but I think I saw something Clement saying he's picked up a further injury that puts him in doubt for tomorrow.
Yeah, I was
So
just going to say on that point. Sorry to interrupt you there. That that Barisic started the last one even when Yilmaz was fit, which I thought
yeah,
was quite strange because I
I
thought
think
Yilmaz even made a difference when he came on.
yeah, I think he was just coming back from an injury at that point. Although Barisic did put the cross in for Rangers' goal, and he
Yeah,
wasn't that bad for the whole game. So uh, I would rather have Redvan, but I think it might be Barisic. The midfield is where it gets interesting for me. I'd have Dujon Sterling in there with John Lundstrom, and I'd have Todd Cantwell. And then on the left, I think it's going to be Fabio Silva because of injuries. Up top, Dessers, and on the right, if he's fit, I'd probably have Ross McCausland starting. Um,
yeah. I would just go back to the midfield. It's a strange one because I don't know. I don't know. You probably know more than me about who's fit. Just from what I've seen, Diamande and then Raskin's get a few more minutes recently. Um, so you would put Lundstrom in like just in ahead of them.
yeah, it's weird considering his performance in the last one as well, and but I'd just have him in
Yeah,
there. Just, I mean, you could hook him at half time, but I think he's probably the most likely of those three to put in a good performance. Um, and yeah, if we can just stay on the Rangers team for a little bit, this brings us to like a key battle with the midfield, and obviously it's one that Celtic have been winning over the past few years, with especially with Callum McGregor in there. Um, if you it's easier said than done, but if you can stop Callum McGregor from playing, you stop Celtic from playing. So I I'd have Dujon Sterling in there because he brings the pace, he brings the energy. He's good on the ball, he's good defensively, and he's a guy that you would hound. You just have him hounding McGregor, not giving him a quiet minute, and then let Lundstrom and Cantwell do their thing on the ball. I know Lundstrom's viewed as a hammer thrower, but he is decent technically. So if they can be given the chance to play, obviously Celtic have a very high energy midfield. Hatate, McGregor, O'Reilly. I'd say more so McGregor and Hatate than O'Reilly, but obviously O'Reilly brings his own bit of magic. So good going forward this season, and his defensive actions have been pretty high as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the midfield is a key
yeah.
battle.
I was just going to say about Canwell. I think he's one of the biggest selection talking points going into the game. He's obviously done well in the last two games against Hearts and St Mirren, but the last 10 games he's been selected for 8 of them. The two he wasn't selected for were against Celtic, so it's whether Clement maybe trusts him in that kind of game because a lot of people have said, and that's the stats say that Clement's pulled him out for those two games. He of course didn't bring him on when Rangers were down to 10 at Celtic Park, but that's understandable. But to not start him in those two games,
Yeah,
um, is a talking point on where he'll start this one.
yeah, it's an
And
interesting one. I think maybe think if I'm not mistaken, Tom Lawrence started in those two games in place of him, and I think perhaps maybe Philip Clement was looking for a bit of robustness as well as that technical ability, because Lawrence can get stuck in. However, I've just not seen it from him this season. And personally, I'd move him on in the summer because when he joined us, he looked brilliant. But the injuries have been too much, and he's not really showing anything spectacular. Um, but yeah, I'd have Cantwell in there. For me, he's a player who's always on the verge of being something great or being something just another, like, I don't know, like the streets won't forget. You know what I mean? Someone who had ability and stuff like that,
Yeah.
don't but don't take it and put it towards their career, make it to the next level. Because I think he's definitely got it, and maybe a lot of people would disagree with me. Maybe I'm biased, but that's just my opinion on him. And I think he could be big, but that's if he shows up. And sadly, that's the case for a lot of our squad if they show up on the day.
Yeah, from a Celtic point of view, I'd prefer if he didn't have Canwell in the team, but he also hasn't showed up in the majority of games against us. But as you said, with Tom Lawrence, he's started the last few, and I think his role was to kind of nullify McGregor, but he's obviously not done that very well. But as you said, Sterling's that energetic inspiration in midfield that can maybe go and get after McGregor. And for the front three, I think it's a complicated one because you've got a few players coming back from injury as well that maybe have a slight chance of getting in there. I think Seaman's come back to get a few minutes. Probably won't
Hmm.
start. Probably won't be up to speed, but he obviously came on in the 3-each game and he changed the game when he came on.
Hmm.
Um, I think, as you said, I think Silva and Dessos, I think they're sets to play, but could even maybe be Scott Wright that starts instead of McCausland. But
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Scott Wright in there though. Just in the three each game, he was so poor. He didn't really seem to know. I remember sitting on the ground watching him. He was coming short when Tavernier was looking for the out ball. He was coming in centrally when Tavernier was looking for the ball down the line. It was, and I don't think he helped at all. Because obviously Tavernier's got Maeda to deal with, but when Greg Taylor's not being dealt with, it makes his job even harder. Um, like you said, Sema coming on changed the game quite a bit. I think he occupied Greg Taylor and it opened up that side. Um, I'd love Sema to play a big role. He's a really good player. It's just again the story of our season with injuries. Um, but I hope he could make an impact because we're going to need all the big players we can because even though this Celtic team hasn't been as good as maybe recent years, they've still come out on top in the league. They've still shown that they've got that mentality, and they've. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Celtic have come into a period of the season where they've maybe found some of their best form this season towards the end, and
No,
Rangers are
definitely,
dropping
definitely.
off. Yeah, do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. You see the point swing just there, like just a few, not even like a month ago, well, a month ago, not even a few months ago, Rangers were in the driving seat, and now it's the league dropped to 8 points, which seems quite crazy for it to have that much of a swing in that time.
Yeah,
Um,
believe me, I know.
yeah, so um, yeah, I think it'll be a close game because both teams will be playing for everything as they always do in these games, especially in a cup final. Like the last game was also a cup final, but in the league. This one literally is a cup final. So
Yeah,
yeah, and the first one in 20 plus years, surprisingly enough, in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah,
Um,
remember
but
how the last one went?
yeah, I do. I do. Well, I don't remember it, but
Yeah, I don't remember either, but obviously
mm,
we're too young, we weren't born. But
uh,
yeah, it should be good. And I think for either team, if they win, that's a successful season. I think for Celtic anyway, it's a successful season because any team that wins the league is a success. But for Rangers, if you told me when Clement came in that we'd be coming away with a cup double, I'd have I'd have jumped at it. I'd be buzzing. So I think any team that wins tomorrow, it'll be successful. So is there anything you want to add about the game or how do you
yeah.
think it will go?
Oh, I was just going to say about your point there about it probably is more important for Rangers to win it, although Celtic fans and the players will not be happy with Rangers having more trophies in a season. But obviously, the league is the top prize and the top dollar is getting into the
Hmm.
Champions League automatically. But I think it's a massive game for Clement. Um, he's not winning the three he's played, and although he's behind Rodgers, Rodgers has got a few months on him. He's obviously and Clement didn't get to make his own signings. Whether Rodgers got to make his own signings based off
Yeah,
what we've seen so far is maybe not. But yeah, I think that's a massive game. There's no doubt in my mind that I think Clement will still be in the dugout for next season because he's not had a chance to really put his proper spin on his team. But
I think
it's
any
a
of
massive.
that talk is crazy about him not being about possibly sacking him. That's mental. If you look at what he inherited,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, but I was just saying that I think it's just a massive game for him because if he goes 4 games without a win, then it's the question marks do start to come. But
definitely.
he will be in charge next season.
Hmm. So just after that, I want to get a quick prediction from you. Scoreline and goal scorers.
Oh, I've not really thought about this. What will I go for? I'll go for what will I go for? I'll go 2-1 Celtic. I'll go for Celtic scorers. I'll go for Kyogo. He's got a great record against Rangers, but he's not scored in the last few, so I think he might be due one. Loves a goal
Hmm.
against Rangers. So I'll go with Kyogo, and I'll go with a Joe Hart penalty. No, I'm only joking. I'll go with James Forrest. Go with James Forrest, and for Rangers scorer, I'll go with Fabio Silva.
Okay. Um, I think we're gonna win on penalties after a 2-2 draw. Uh, it's not very confident, but and I think the goal scorers will be Kyogo and Adamida for Celtic. I think we'll get a James Tavernier penalty and Cyril Dessers. And I think
And
Rangers will lift the
who's going
Scottish
to miss
Cup.
that penalty?
Who's going to miss their penalty?
Do you? And who's going to miss that penalty for Celtic?
Joe Hart.
Joe Hart,
Yeah,
the penalty.
he'll
Jesus,
take it
that
again.
terrible send off.
Well, he missed
Yeah, he
against
probably
Aberdeen,
will.
didn't he?
Um, yeah, he did. He did.
Mm.
But he made
Eh,
up for it. So,
mm. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Our first episode of the Dugout. Maybe not as organised as we wanted it to be, but we thought try and get something out before this big game. We'll be back after the game to talk about the fallout, talk about Scotland coming up for the Euros, and Laurie Finlayson will be on that with us as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Cheerio.